Okay, everybody, it is about 2:01 here, so I'm going to get started. Today's webinar is really going to focus on the features that we recently released, and then at the end of the webinar, we can talk about kind of what's coming soon and some other ideas for the end of the year. But this one is just kind of limited to not a full demo of the system, but really just focused on the things that are new in the system, or at least upgraded or enhanced in the system via the latest release. My name, as I mentioned before, is Josh Whitmer. I'm the product manager here. I work very closely with a lot of different areas of the company in trying to make sure that we're building a product that you all, the people on the phone and other users that we have, makes your lives easier, is efficient, and is the best system it can be for you all. In today's agenda, I'm going to do a very quick 5-minute overview of just what we're talking about today. Going to go over some of the basics. Then we'll spend about 30 minutes in the new features, kind of just do a quick overview of that information so you know what to expect when you are looking in the system now, as you all are pretty much all users. And then we'll answer questions at the end. We can do 5-10 minutes of that. Of course, at the end of the demo, if there are other questions that you don't think of, GoToWebinar allows you to put questions into the little side panel. Anything that I don't answer on the call, I'll make sure that I at least send a follow-up email or give more clarification if it is something that you sent. So please ask away. Before I get started, I want to mention that this webinar is being recorded, so if you want the recording or the video after the presentation, just let me know. We are social as well. We try to make sure that we're updating different accounts with various information, including YouTube with old webinar sessions, just so you have that and you can refer back to that as needed. We also do have a full help center area that I'm not sure, it's a newer venture for us, kind of maybe 4 or 5 months ago now that we've had that, but it is an ever-building library of information. And if there's anything in there that you don't see right now, just ping one of our support people and we will work to add that information. So we're kind of taking an agile approach there. As far as today's topics, the first thing that I want to go over is just the changes to the drawing form. The changes include, in the past we had 2 separate areas, one for drawings, one for packages. We pulled those into one area. We have 2 tabs in the drawings area now, so it makes it a little bit easier to find both form types. We've also introduced, we've always had a list view for our logs, but for drawings, we're introducing a new look for logs, which is a thumbnail view. And I think drawings will be the first one that we've put this into, but there are different areas that we might include this in the future. And then on the drawing form, there's going to be 2 tabs, one for the viewer, which is going to be the default tab showing you the actual drawing, so the file, which is right now must be PDF, versus the detail tab, which is going to have all your fields. And that's the area that you're also going to be able to customize. We've been improving our file markup editor as well. In this recent release, we've added the ability to pin or make pins to existing forms. So let's say on a drawing file, you want to pin, an area of a room to an existing punch list item. You could do that now through our pin annotations. It's not limited to PDFs either. You could also do this on file. So if you take a picture of something and you want to link that to a safety issue or something like that, you could certainly do that. You can choose colors, and I will kind of show you kind of how to do that. And then finally, we've always had budgets, budget amendments, and then you have the different form types, contracts, payouts, PCOs, all of that kind of stuff that you can link to your budget. You can create a report for that information, but we've also made it a little bit easier and added automatic joins, which are going to link things together based on the account code. So I'll talk a little bit about that and how easy it is to kind of set some of that information up now. Related to drawings, not something that was released in this most recent feature set, but something that we're working on very hard right now, is something called OCR++. So OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition. You might have heard, OCR in the industry is becoming more of a factor, and people like the ability to make it as simple as possible to get information into the system. But there are, as you know, if you've used products that have OCR before, there's a lot of downfalls with OCR. Information has to be in the exact right place or it won't find it. Sometimes it does make mistakes, and then you still have to review all that information. So the concept of OCR is a really cool concept. It just hasn't been perfected in the marketplace right now, and we're working very closely with Amazon to bring forward the OCR++ functionality, which again is kind of coming soon. The difference, one of the main differences between OCR, the simple OCR that exists today in some areas, versus the advanced OCR++, is the ability to identify contents of fields and tables throughout whatever file you're uploading. It does not have to be in the exact same spot. It will recognize patterns and automatically fill out your forms. But just an FYI here, something that is coming soon that might be related to drawings or specifications or submittals, all that kind of stuff. All right, so let's demo. If I open up ProjectTeam, for the purpose of this demo, I just want to go in and kind of look at the items that I discussed earlier. So I'm going to log in. I'm going to kind of skip over some of the basics of navigation. I will get into a project, go to my webinar project, and at the top of my project homepage, of course, I see my favorite form types. As always, and as you all know, this is a customizable list. I've added some of the form types that I'm going to be reviewing on this webinar kind of at the top here. The first one is going to be drawings. So if I click on drawings, it takes me to a drawing log. This drawing log at this point looks consistent, sort of, with what the drawing log looked like before the release. So in here, I have just information about my drawings. You could always import your drawings. Some of you might already have a large list of drawings in here, and therefore this list is going to kind of look unchanged. One thing that is a little bit different, though, is at the top of the log, we see two tabs, one for drawings and one for packages. If I click into packages, I see a list of all the packages that I have. I can click into any of these. So let's say mechanical drawings. And in this package, I've got these 4 or 5 drawings linked to it. Each one of these can be linked to the actual drawing. So if I click on this, it's going to take me right to the drawing form. But it was easy for me to kind of view the packages versus just the individual drawings. If you share a package, all of the drawings inside of the package are automatically shared. So it makes it easy to kind of distribute information to your different users inside and outside of your company. If I go back to the drawings log, okay, so I'm on the drawings tab here. On the right-hand side, I see 2 kind of little icons, one for list view and one for thumbnail view. If I'm by default in list view, as it always has been, if I click on thumbnails though, it'll pull up all of the drawings that I have, as long as I have a drawing file listed as in the main area of my drawing. Okay, so by default, anything that you had before this release will not be the default, but you can change that. But it's showing up here in a thumbnail view. I can see all of my drawings. It gives me kind of a little view of what each one of those looks like, and in some cases is a little bit prettier than just my standard list view. At the top of this log, we have some default information. I do see a filter here for disciplines, so I can say I just want to see architectural or I just want to see other disciplines. You can kind of click through and filter out your log in that way. I'll show all again. We always had this show a latest revision only, so if I have multiple revisions of a drawing or drawings, I just want to see the latest. If there's things that we want to search and configure the log, we would have to do that on the list view. Okay, there's no way really to configure The thumbnail view, it is what it is. It shows you that small picture. It's got the name and then the drawing number and revision. But if I want to filter out something by searching, I would go back to the list view, and I could now search for the A1s or something like that. That's going to filter out that information. Okay, so searching is going to be done in list view, and then kind of the nice look and feel and see is from the thumbnail view. You'll notice that each one of these has a little thumbnail. This one does not. By default, for the existing users that are using ProjectTeam that might look at their drawing log now, they'll see a bunch of these kind of default views. This one actually, this wall sections, does have a file associated with it, and it is in the right area to be able to show a viewer. The difference is I'm just doing a really quick example of a protected file. So just because you upload a drawing into the system, if it is a PDF that has required password or something like that, or there's some sensitivity to it, and you require a password, nobody will be able to see that unless they put in their password. So if I click into this, you'll see that I'm viewing a form right now that shows me that there is a password required. Once you type in the password, it'll go through and actually show you the file. Okay, so just a very quick example of what something would look like either if you don't have a file associated, or there's some kind of password protected file on the machine, which is going to give you the default that would require still you have a password before you can see it. If I go back to the drawing log and the thumbnail area, you'll see that it's still not showing. There is no way to see password protected thumbnails in ProjectTeam right now. The next drawing that I want to go over is clicking on this roof plans area. So go ahead and click on that. Once I do, you'll notice that this form, this drawing form, looks pretty much like any other form that we have in the system. We have the default panels that show up with any of our forms. So we have the shared panel, the action items, the activity. If I scroll down here, I see revision history, which is more unique to drawings. It's not on some of the other forms, but it is on submittals and specifications as well. Workflows allow you to route information to different parties, internal and external. I could do this at the individual drawing record, or I could have done this at the package level as well. And then you have attachments. So the attachments here, if I kind of take some of this information, I can see somewhere I have some different photos. I might want to just drag and drop these photos right into the system, just like I did before. These are kind of going to act as supplementary instructions or sketches or something to the actual main drawing file. So I see the attachments down here is not necessarily related to this details area. Let's go back and add a brand new drawing just so you can see that interface in lieu of OCR. Okay, so this is just going to be manually. I'm going to say new drawing. The first step that I have is to upload my actual file. So I'm going to say upload. It's going to show me a bunch of different information. I can just say, this A0.1 is probably fine, and say open that. Once I do, it tells me which one I've selected. For now, I'm just going to copy this because it makes it easier for me. Go to the next screen and paste that into the subject and the drawing number. Okay, so I'm just manually doing this right now. I can fill in whatever other fields that I want, including any custom fields, but that's pretty good. I can say discipline here is, let's just say none for now, and I'll just save that. Once I do, I've associated a file with the actual drawing form at this point. So my thumbnail would work, but also on my form, I'll notice there are two tabs, one for viewer and one for details. The viewer tab is just showing me kind of a view of the actual drawing. Here I also have the ability to put this into full screen mode if I want, and I'll do that in a second. The details tab is going to show me all of the fields that are associated with the drawing, again, including any custom fields that I have. So if I click on details, I see all this information. No matter what, if I'm on viewer or details, if I click the edit button, it's just taking me to the details area, allowing me to see all of the different form fields. So here I can put in a revision date to change this information. I can pull in my design business and design contact if I wanted to, save that, and that information is updated. The next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to go back to a different drawing. I'm going to go back to the roof plan drawing. So I see this new roof plan here. And look at this information. Now I want to talk a little bit about the new markups. Okay, so I'll go over quickly some of the existing markup or annotation ability that you have, but I also want to talk about pins. So if I click on this view full screen markup mode, it's going to take me to a full screen of the information. By default, the markups are turned off. Okay, so it's showing me the original file, not as to not confuse anybody with information that has not been actually published yet. If I turn markups on, it'll show me now my markup view. I can do lots of different cool information or types of functionality here by expanding this to 100% or whatever other percent. If I right click, I get this little sub menu here. I usually take the hand so I can kind of drag and drop and find my way around this drawing. I see this information, this little box here showing me the different AC units that are, in this case, on this roof. And I have these different annotation abilities at the top. The first one is not necessarily an arrow, but it's a measurement tool. We can either measure straight lines, polygons, or perimeter type measurements. Okay, so for example, I can click on this measurement tool. I can set a scale. So this drawing, if I right click on here and go down, it does say my roof plan is 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. So if I go back into here, I've already set it to this, but I could change this however I want to change the scale. Once I set that and the precision, I can then take my mouse here and measure this information. Okay, if I click on this, it's going to tell me the information about what's going on there. And I actually clicked on that twice, so let me delete this one. Okay, so it's going to show me the distance in feet based on my ratio. So I can see it's 56 feet, this little area of the roof. Next, I can add different, shapes, simple shapes for the annotation. So maybe this AC unit number 7 here has an issue with it or needs to be associated with a punch list. I could very easily draw a circle or something around it. I could change the shape color to be red, and then also do things like change the thickness to be a little thicker, so if you're looking at it, it's easier to see. Okay, so making these different annotations exist in the functionality before this release, but just to give you just how easy it is to kind of add those items. Every annotation that you make, you'll notice on the left-hand side, shows a history of that. By default, it's not newest on top or anything like that. It is actually by position. So if we're looking at this information, I can see the circles on top. So I can see that is showing up second in this case. I could change by time. So the circle is the last thing that I did, so that's the newest, or by position to show in whatever order I want. So you have two options there, and I could also search this information. The next thing that I want to highlight, and this is new in this release, is this second area here, which is just a little pin. By default, the pin will be red, but you can change the pin to be whatever you want. So you might say on your job, people from my company are going to use the green pin. People from my mechanical company, they should use the blue pin. People from my architects, they're actually using, the orange pin or whatever it is. Okay, so you can make rules however you need. You could also say all punch list items should be green, RFIs should be blue. Whatever rules that you want to kind of set up on your job, you can kind of set that. So for this one, I'm just going to say, since I just said a punch list should be green, I'll click on the green option. Okay, and then I'm just going to add right in the middle of that AC unit. When I click into that, I get this list of existing forms that are showing up. I have the simple search, just like you would in the reference links panel, or I could do an advanced search, which is also going to search not only the subject or the form type, but any other fields, including custom fields that you have specific to the term that you search. For now, I'm just going to type in here punch list items. I see the different items in here. and I don't, let's just say this number 2 here. So I'm going to click on number 2 and add. Once I do, I see that green pin showing up now next to this AC unit. Okay. On the left-hand side, I see that there's a new pin activity that was created, and it actually is showing me that it is a link. If I click on this link, it'll actually open up the punch list item in a separate tab, allowing me to view this information kind of quickly. Okay. One thing to note now that I'm on my punch list item is if I scroll down to the reference links area, I can see this punch list is now referencing this drawing. So I made a pin on the drawing referencing a punch list, and now it's automatically showing me that the reference exists back to the drawing for the punch list. I'm going to X this out, okay? So that information is showing up. Just to show you have the other color variations, I can make an orange pin over here that's linked to, let's say, a request for information. And then I can make a blue pin over here that's linked to something else, let's say a budget item or whatever you want in there. I'm doing this all on a PDF file, but like I said in the beginning, you could also do all of this on image files, so JPEGs, PNGs, and I think a few more. You'll see each one of these has the little link next to it, so it's going to show me that it's linked to whatever else I'm viewing here. If another user that you're connected to logs in and views this file, he or she will be able to see the pins that you've added, assuming that she has access, or he or she has access to the form record that you're pinning. So if I'm connected to somebody and I don't want them to know about my budget item, and I put a pin on my file, then that person looks at the file. They won't see the pin unless they have access to the form. Okay, so access and security is still respected throughout your different files. For anything that they do have access, they would not be able to edit, but they would be able to click on and add replies. So you might say something in here that this is actually the wrong room and you need to move it, or whatever other comments that you have. One kind of tip and trick here, sometimes it can be hard to grab the little pins. So if you take the little arrow, you can make a square around it, and then it'll make it easier to grab it and then move it if you wanted to. Okay. Sometimes that makes it a little bit easier with each one of those pins. The pin is going to stay the same size no matter where you go. So if I make this out to 50%, I can still see that pin exists. Even at 10%, I can see that stuff exists at the same size it was, just a little bit relative. Okay, so I'm going to close this for now. Or actually, let's take some of these things off. Actually, we'll just close it. So I'm just going to close this information. Now that I've made markups on my file, I do see this little has markup title showing up on my drawing. That is also going to show in your list view and your thumbnail of your drawings. So if I go back and I go to my thumbnail view here, and I scroll down, I do see that little red M saying that this roof plan has markups on it. Okay, so as you're looking at the drawings as a whole, you'll know which ones have been marked up. Okay, so that is a brief overview of the drawing section and some of the new features that we've added in here. This is, of course, being expanded even more, and all the different features always are. But we're very excited to get this out there. I think it helps with some usability and some visuals as you're kind of connecting with other clients. Now I'm going to go on to reports. So if I click into the reports area, there's some information here that I think is important and will help you all when you're creating your different reports. If I go into one of my folders, and I'm going to skip kind of the basics of reports just to kind of show this here, but I have a sample budget report showing up. If I run this report, it shows me information based on my budget form. Okay, so let's open this up. I'm going to right click and open up my budget item form just to show you what I'm talking about here. But this report is pulling information from the different budget items I have on my job. Okay, so I've got building permit, supervision, insurance, lot clearing, etc. If I look at my budget item form, so I'm going to click over to my new tab, I see all of that information listed with my original budget amount, and I'm even showing some revised budget information based on amendments. Okay. What's nice is the amendment information is just automatically on my budget form, so I don't need to create a join or a connection between my budget and my budget amendments in my report. It just shows up. The purpose of me showing the budgets here is I want to add information related to contracts, though. Okay, so this is another form type that we're making an automatic join based on the account code. Okay, so account codes can be set up on your job. You can set whatever segments you want on there, so whatever you want that thing to look like, 4 characters, then a dash, then 6 characters, then another dash, then 1 character, whatever you want that thing to look like, you can set that up. You can import your account codes, you can import your budget, and then on your job, as you're working on contracts and PCOs, and let's say cost impact RFIs, things like that, you can link all of that information back to your budget to kind of see how the project is progressing. So for this example, I'm just going to add information to a contract and then link it to my budget and show you kind of how I would set that up in a very simple view, but you can extrapolate this out and do this with other forms as well. So right now I've got an account code, original budget, approved budget amendments, revised budget, or pending revised budget. That's pretty good. That's all coming from my budget form. If I go into edit mode of this budget report, I see all that information as it's set up. Again, I'm not going to explain everything about reports here. I'm assuming there's some prior knowledge to reports, and if not, that's okay. You can at least see some of the power here, and we can get on a separate call, or a support can help you out with reports. But right now, I've just included information coming from my budget items form. So the budget item category, the approved amendments category related to budget items, and then the pending amendments related to budget items category. I've also included a projects category here. It's not necessary, but I wanted to show the project name and project number in my report. That's why I pulled it in. The next thing that I want to do is, if I type in contract here, I see I have a whole bunch of different contract options, and maybe it's unclear which one I want to pull into my report. So before I do that, I'm actually going to open up a new tab and look at my contract document. Okay, so we're going to pause report writing right now. I'm going to go over to my new tab, open up my forms, and click on my contract. Okay, it looks like I have one simple contract in here called contract 001, which is fine. There's no original contract amount because I haven't added anything yet. I'll click into this and actually go into edit mode. So I'll just say edit mode here. And here's information about my contract. At the bottom, I have my schedule of values for my contract. You'll notice that I have a cost code column showing up on my contract schedule values. This is a custom column that I added before this webinar. So you can add whatever you want to extend the tables as needed. Let me add 2 values linked to the same account code for an example purpose to show you what's going to happen here. So if I click into here, I'm just going to say item 1. Let's say it's $100, and it's going to go to code building permits. Okay, and then I want to add a second item to my contract schedule values. So item 2, let's say that one's $200. And again, I'm going to link the same thing to building permits just to show you an example of what you'll have to do in your report to make this all look pretty. Okay, so I'm going to say okay there. So I've got item 1, $100, item 2, $200, and that's good. So I'll go ahead and save this. So I've just modified my contract that is linked to an account code, and that account code has an associated budget item with an original budget tied to it. So if I go back to my report here, if I want to include a new category, the thing that I was just editing was contract dash schedule of values. Okay, so that's the only thing that I want to pull in. Since I don't need anything from my other categories, I'm going to choose not to pull that in. So I'll just say, click the arrow there, and now contract schedule values is pulled in. I'm going to say okay there. Now that I've done that, I want to include one more column. I'm going to take the value of my contract schedule value, just drag and drop that right to this budget area. This is the right format that I want this cell to have. So I'm going to highlight this one. I'm going to click my format paintbrush, click that. It's just going to automatically give me, it's right aligned. It's going to show me a dollar currency value, things like that. Then I want to just copy and paste this over here and call this my contract SOV. Okay. If I do this right now, one of the nice things that you'll notice is I did not, if you have any prior report knowledge, I did not have to create a join, a manual join for these two categories, contract schedule values and budget items. It automatically happened in ProjectTeam for me. Okay, so if I run this, I might expect that I'm going to get a good, or that I am going to get good information. The problem is I see the schedule values is showing up multiple times. Okay, so I don't want that, so I'm going to have to do some quick modification here. If I go into the edit mode of my report, I'm going to click on categories. Actually, let's see here. I'm going to click on advanced joins, just kind of check things out here. Again, this is getting more into the advanced area of reports. But I see a bunch of joins showing up here. I don't necessarily need this project to contract join because I only really need one project join in there, and it's already joined to budget items. And then I can say budget items to contract schedule value. Yep. Add a condition. It's automatically going to find account code equals cost code. So that's great for me. Say OK, and then apply that. Now when I run this report, I should be getting information that looks a little bit better. The problem is I'm seeing two values showing up for the same account code. Building permits is showing up twice because I have two contracts. Okay, so I'm going to need to do some aggregation here, which again is easy to do as long as you kind of know what you're doing here. Okay, so I'm just going to finish that up, and then I'll stop and ask for questions. So I'm going to go back to the edit mode. I need to add a section, add a group header, and I want to have the group be based on my budget items, which is fine. And I'm just going to take this whole row here and put it up to the header information. Then I'm going to take the schedule values and put it back down to the details. If I run this at this point, just to kind of show you what's happening, things are looking better, a little bit sloppy, but better. Now I have one building permits item with two schedule values for my contract showing up, and then I have no schedule values for my contract for the other budget item, so that doesn't show anything. So I just need to create an ag sum and then hide this information to get the good information. So I'm going to go here. I'll kind of quickly do this. So I'm going to say add section, group footer. Again, I'm going to say budget items. In this row, I want to aggregate all of the data that's pulling into this cell. So I'm going to add a formula here and just say sum, contracts, value. To force aggregation based on the formula, I always include the true statement. Okay, that looks good. But I want this value to actually show up here. I did it in the footer because it's going to count information as it goes along and put it in the footer. And then in this area is where I actually want to show it. I just need to reference this cell. So I'm just going to say equals, let's say G7. Okay, and that looks good. Again, I'm going to take this, paint it to be this format, and then I can take these two columns, suppress that row, so they're not going to show on my report, run this report, and it should give me good values. Okay, so now I've got information showing zeros for everything except 300, which is the aggregate of 100 plus 200, showing for building permits. Okay, so a little bit in depth there for reports, but just to show you some of the advancements we've done in reporting to allow for some of that automatic joining and finding the related information. I've linked contracts to budgets right here, but you could link everything else as well. So contracts, payouts, PCOs, anything that you have an account code on, you can link that to your budget now, and it'll automatically join. Okay. All right, so that is a lot of information in about 35 minutes, but we stayed on schedule there. Let me know if you have any questions based on the information that I kind of went over. and I'll do my best to kind of answer some of that information. So the first question is mobile devices. You do have access to everything that I just showed on your mobile device. So like, I think this is more related to the drawings area. You can pull up your phone or your iPad, look at the drawings on those smaller devices as long as you're connected to the internet, and view the drawing, add your annotations, anything like that. And then the OCR question, so there's a question about when is OCR++ or when do we expect that to come out and be released. That's scheduled right now for early 2020, so probably not by the end of the year as we're still working through some of the information, but we do offer services if you wanted to show or to be able to add drawings into the into your logs. There's a question about adding account code to budget markups. I am not sure exactly the question there. You can add your account code pretty much in a lot of areas of the system, including collections. So if there's there is a form already for budget amendments, and I'm not sure that's the markup area, but budget amendments that automatically links per account code to the budget item form. If you have anything else, as long as the account code is showing up, it can link to your budget item. So I'm not sure that's the question that you're asking or the answer to give there, but I can follow up with you after this. Okay. For PCOs. So right now you can define contract change order or change order markups on your contract, and then those things go over to your PCOs by default. So let me see here. Question. Yeah. So if you define contract markups or change order markups on your contract, when you create a PCO related to that contract, those markups automatically show. Oh, I see. But then if you add account code field to that change order markups collection, that does not automatically come over. I know I think our support team has potentially worked with you to understand that requirement in the past. So that is a story in our backlog. Took me a long time to get there. Okay. All right, that looks like it's the end of the questions for now. Of course, if you have any other questions, want to reach out to me after this call, or really anybody at support@ProjectTeam.com, please do so, and we'll make sure that we clear any questions you have up for you. Okay. Thank you all for joining, and we'll host another one of these probably next month. Thank you.